So once again, we sit down to have a conversation that we call Attempted Intelligence. What we're going to do today is kind of, I would almost say play, or maybe play isn't the most appropriate word, but essentially maybe riff.
Okay.
Fair enough. Riff on the idea of storytelling or relaying information, and maybe try to view that through the lens of positivism versus constructivism, and maybe consider a hierarchy for what might engage people in a story, right?
Okay.
What's more likely to engage people in a story. So just to refresh, constructivism would be an epistemology. So epistemology being a theory of knowledge, or as I like to say, a theory of knowledge creation. Constructivism being broadly the epistemological stance that would suggest that there are multiple realities, and the reality or the truth depends on the observer, the environment of observation, and the previous experience of the observer. Whereas positivism would suggest that there is one reality, regardless of observer, and that it can be identified through appropriate experimentation. So obviously more relating to science and scientific endeavors with respect to how I'm describing it, but there is some conceptual room to consider how this may inform storytelling. Now, as far as positivism is concerned, so one reality, it can be found with appropriate experimentation, regardless of observer. Can you think of any stories that would play well to that?
I don't know why this just popped into my head, and maybe we can argue about it.
I don't know. Why do we have to argue? Why can't we just discuss?
Well, we can discuss.
Okay.
I was just
with differing opinions?
With different opinions.
Okay.
1984.
Okay.
I was just thinking that having this one truth that the current situation is going to lead to this kind of Big Brother effect, and we need to...
Tell me more about that, because 1984 has Big Brother.
Yes.
Are you trying to suggest that something that you're observing is going to lead to that?
It was more so that
Or are you trying to talk about 1984 itself?
1984 itself and the Big Brother effect in the story.
Okay.
Yeah, so just the idea that it's this overarching thing, this one theme that's going towards, so everyone needs to kind of go towards that.
So
all the people inside the story.
Okay, so maybe to make it more clear, what would you just define the Big Brother effect as? What's Big Brother?
My take on it, because I read it when I was younger, but more so the larger authority around you, so the government or the ability.
So my recollection of Big Brother is essentially you have the state, and there is one acceptable truth and one acceptable way to perform it.
Correct.
And if you are outside of that, then they are watching. So the idea of Big Brother is watching to see if you're doing what is acceptable. So now here's the thing. This is where I would say that's not positivism. However, there is an organization that holds one truth. This is the way it's done. But realistically, that's actually not appropriate. Right? So it's almost like bad constructivism, because whoever Big Brother happens to be has created this truth that is dependent on them, their environment of observation, their previous experiences. But you all have to do this. So that would maybe map better to when I say when constructivism is held as positivism.
Okay.
So an emergent truth, or a truth that is dependent on the person who is making the claim, is put out as it's the only truth. And then the tension is, no, there's lots of truth. I am the person who's the main character, and I know how to not be seen by Big Brother. I'll just step away from my TV. Then they say, hey, you're out in front of your TV. You're not waving to the leader. Right, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So what I would actually say is that isn't maybe a good example of positivism.
Okay.
It would be a good example of when constructivism is conflated for positivism. Okay?
No, I agree.
Any stories you can think of where maybe there is a claim of this is the way it is, and then somebody's investigating and they're like, no, that's actually not the way it is. There is something that lies underneath it. It's like the deep hidden secret. Maybe you can't think of something like that. Like,
yeah, on the spot right now, nothing's coming to me. But if I had a minute, probably.
You have minutes and stuff.
I don't know. I just wanted to have this dead silence on camera while I'm thinking about it.
It might be cool, like Family Guy.
I don't know if it's necessarily cool or just relatable, but yeah.
Have you the Cave Allegory?
No. Well, I've heard of it.
Okay,
Yeah.
what have you heard about the Cave Allegory?
Is that the one with? Is it?
Was it that guy named Plato?
I was gonna say that guy named Plato. That guy.
Like the guy, he was cool and stuff. I think I've seen him in anime.
Was that with the shadows in the cave? Yeah.
So essentially, the idea is that you're seeing the shadows of reality, not reality itself. Essentially, there's you're in the cave, you're looking at the cave wall, there's a light source outside, and then it's going to project, and what is dancing on the cave wall is the shadows of what's real. Right. So essentially, you believe that what you're seeing is real, but the person who turns towards and walks towards the entry to the cave, or the exit, or the mouth of the cave, however you want to put it, ends up walking out and saying, wow, that's the real stuff. Right. And then when they come back and tell everybody inside that the real stuff's out there, it's like, yeah. So there is some storytelling that points to, no, there is a universal truth that can be found, but there's something else going on, or there may be difficulty accepting it.
Well, isn't that the same thing what you're saying where one, like we were talking about positivism and constructivism, can't say right now, but how they, I can't remember the words that you used, but how they kind of relate to each other and how they build.
So I would I would suggest, or I have suggested, that they are complementary and mutually affirmative.
Right.
So if you're looking for one truth, what you find is variation is normal. So if you're looking through a positivist lens, you will see a variety of expression. Right. You'll see multiple things, or variation is normal. If you're asking all of those realities questions, what you'll see is an emergent truth. So you'll find the one stable, observable thing. So it's almost like constructivism done well finds positivism, and positivism done well often finds multiple realities, or finds constructivism.
Right. Sure. Well, I was just thinking, with your example of the allegory, every person would have to come out to see it for themselves, and then have their own. So you can't just have the one person go out and say, hey, this is reality. Okay. This is what it's like, and have everyone believe it. They all have to go out for themselves.
You're speaking more about having everybody believe it, not its actual truth.
Correct.
Okay, so the everybody believing it might actually be the challenge. The truth isn't the challenge, it's just there.
It's there.
Anybody who looks, anybody who observes is able to identify it, right? Because they have the capacity to observe it, right? And also, if something else observed it, the tree's out there, the tree knows what's going down. Right. Or if the tree had consciousness in the way that we conceive consciousness, then it would know. Right. Trees may have consciousness, just not as we conceive.
Exactly.
Right? Because maybe we haven't figured it out yet. Maybe we will. Maybe we won't. I don't know. But the idea being that what you're talking about is the person who has observed the universal may not be believed because nobody else has observed it.
Correct.
Right? So that can be an interesting thing whereby, no, I swear I've seen it. You don't believe me because you've never seen it. It's like, no, we don't believe you. Well, yeah, we don't believe you because nobody's ever seen it, and you're the one that says you have. So it becomes this interesting thing where a story about something like that, where I've seen what you haven't seen and you don't believe me because you've never seen it, could be things like alien abduction. Okay. Right? So it's like, well, what do we believe? Right. And why do we believe it? Just because we've never seen it doesn't mean it's not true. Right. So there could be an observable reality for anything that was able to observe it that says, yes, things from other planets that are sentient and capable of manipulating matter in such a way that they could travel here, they're real. Like trees might have seen it, but we can't talk to trees that we know of.
So you're saying, I'm just trying to clarify that the truth is existent. So the truth is existent based on the observer and then independent of the observer.
Completely independent. Right. So whether we observe it or not doesn't mean it's not true.
Right.
Right. It's there, and anything that can observe it would have the capacity, and then if there's a communicative capacity, attached to that as well, then it could communicate it outside of itself, or whatever itself is.
Right.
The idea that we can't observe something doesn't mean it's not there. It means we can't observe it. And because we can't observe it, we can't conceive of it well.
Fair enough.
Right? So that would lend credence to positivism, generally speaking. So there may be some times when positivism is really good for storytelling, because you can see essentially positivism in the Cave Allegory. You could see positivism possibly in alien abduction stories, regardless of how true or not true they are. But you could make a claim that would fit a positivist model. But what kind of stories do you think people are more likely to attach to? The stories that are true no matter who observes them, or true because they relate to their previous experience?
The second one.
The second one? Okay. Why would you say that?
Just my understanding of stories is that people gravitate towards stories that are relatable. So
relatable to
their personal experience.
That.
Yes.
Now, does it matter who they are?
Well, no.
No, it doesn't matter who they are. It doesn't matter where they're from. It just matters that there's some signal that they bite on.
Correct. And that's how I feel that stories are made now, is that they're made in such a way that no matter what's being seen, they can grab something. They can grab something.
Would you say that no matter what the story is, or no matter how it's told, anybody who actually looks at it could grab something?
Yes.
Okay. What I would say, I'd agree with that. That's why I posed the question and led you that way.
Okay.
Because, that's what I do. That's maybe one of the things I do, maybe not the only thing I do. But the idea being that what we may be more used to in this time period is the ability for somebody to put a story out and then observe how a lot of people respond. Right? So what they try to do is refine to what most people will respond to for a given reason. So we've talked about this with...
I feel like this is like we are the product. The viewer is the product.
So we want to be clear to make this somewhat standalone, that any form of media, the product is not the story itself. The product is not the written story, not the visual story, not the audio story. The product is the individual consuming it, because you're being sold to advertisers or to something that is going to try to extract money from you. Well, what about books and publishers? Well, if you like something from this author, right, then titles you may also like.
Yes.
Right? So you could organize a bookstore that way. Titles you may also like. Right? If you like this book, well, you'll really like this book.
Well, and often when you see someone's book collection on their bookshelf, they'll have multiple of the same author that they like.
I'm going to say you have a strange experience.
I do.
With that. Not because of you, but because of your wonderful mother.
Yes.
She's an avid book lover, and she has the same book in... So no matter which book we're talking about, she has multiple copies of the same book, because there's different covers on it.
Yeah.
Right? And she will actually read it. So she's an interesting human being. She stands out very, very clearly with respect to that, and probably in a way that's good for her. Right? So that's all I need to say about that. Lots of books in your presence for your whole life. I believe you may have had a stronger experience in relation to books than many others. I'm just going to say stronger.
Fair enough.
Because I don't want to judge your feelings.
Fair enough.
Right. Plus the theory of constructive emotion. Another something.
Yes.
So, the idea being that there may be something that's an individual storyteller taps into, because it's what they happen to vibe with, and then a bunch of other people vibe with them and continue to buy. So they just do what they do. So it's almost like getting cornered.
Yeah, I find that a lot of authors, they get pigeonholed.
Yeah.
If they want to...
I said cornered because I don't know the origins of the phrase pigeonholed. I know what it means, but I don't know where it comes from or how to maybe use it in the most appropriate way. That's why I said cornered.
Fair enough.
So it's like,
fair enough.
You're in the corner, give us more of what you got, and we...
Well, I find a lot of authors end up getting stuck in a very specific genre because that's where they're getting their incentive. That's where they're getting all of their viewers, and they're getting their money. So they're only writing spies, or they're only writing romance, or whatever it is.
Well, and they get the what was I gonna say? It's like there's a feedback. There's as you said, incentive. So it's like they continue to write the same thing, and they're all that was what I wanted to say. World building. They build an entire
Yes.
world and they just break it out, and
Right.
it's like this saga or that saga.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Right? There's room for everything, but the idea that I'm maybe trying to point to is that we live in an environment currently, you and I, that is better at identifying what people respond to it and in the direction that they respond to it. So if I'm trying to get you to respond by looking longer, then we throw the things that make you look longer. Right? We can figure that out. If I'm trying to make you respond with something in the positive direction, we can figure out what would do that. If I'm trying to make you respond in a negative direction, we can observe and figure out what to do that, because we have the ability to observe. Right? So through recordings of varying forms, so written recordings, audio recordings, visual recordings, we have ways to do that, and we have ways to analyze it. We can do that.
And that's why we talked about the kayfabe in the last...
Kayfabe. Yeah, kayfabe. Stay and pay.
Yes.
Right? I would call it that.
Right.
So kayfabe being the series of lies of professional wrestling. So wrestlers would never break character in public and all that stuff.
Right.
Now, the idea being that there are multiple realities. So what I would say is that the possible tension between many realities and one reality can set up a great story. It can set it up.
Okay.
Because there's a possible tension there, right? So the central reality where, the evil leader's trying to tell you that don't look at the light because the light is bad. Whatever it might be. So,
someone goes, why can't we look at the light?
Right? So you can believe whatever you want to believe. So many realities.
Right.
But don't look at the light. Because the one true reality will make me not have power over you. Or you can say, there's one and only one observable truth, but, my experience. So you're trying to tell me about your boring observable truth, no matter who looks at it, but you're erasing my experience. Right? So the hero could be the one who lets you see the single observable truth, or the hero could be the one that allows you to accept yourself for who you are. Right? Now, do you think there could be audiences for both of those heroes and both of those villains?
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
So it's not that one's better for storytelling, it's just there's a style that may be related to the storytelling of positivism, which would be called scientific writing. Where's the dragons?
Yeah.
Versus constructivism, it's like, well, I can create my own world. There's many worlds, I can create mine. Right? So it's to say, actually, what might be an interesting device is to identify the tension that, there's, don't look at the truth, believe whatever you want, but don't look at the actual truth. Or, they're like, this is the one truth. Wait, no, we can believe whatever we want. Right, whatever.
So there's always that conflict.
So again, the tension between the two. Now, in reality, or in the observable reality that I seem to inhabit, I wouldn't say that's actually what happens. I would say that depending on how you look at something, you're going to find certain things. That is what it is. All ways of looking for things have flaws. Therefore, if we use them all, we'll maybe have a more complete picture. So, most people would write the story with tension. What I would say might be actually really interesting is write the story as if everybody believes there's a tension. And then say, actually, there isn't a tension, you're creating it.
But where's that tension coming from?
Yeah, it's like, wait a minute, ladies and gentlefolk, right, or however you'd like to be addressed. No, you think there's a tension, but there isn't. You actually find each other.
But then, doesn't that just create a utopian ending?
No.
Okay.
No, because you still feel what you feel.
So
the observable truth is still the observable truth. It literally changes nothing.
So it's like you're constructing the tension, you figure out you're constructing the tension, but it still exists, but then you accept it because you know that you're constructing it?
Yeah, but you can construct when it's good for you. Right? So the idea is maybe write the story that points to the concept that I would suggest that there are multiple realities as far as human experience is concerned. Human experience is generated, right? It's generated from the individual.
Or dragons and ogres. It doesn't always have to be humans.
Yeah, that's okay. all ogres matter. Fight for the ogres?
Yeah.
Well, the ogres can fight for themselves in my story. Right? And you can say that in a flippant way and maybe in a derogatory way, but that's not necessarily what we're trying to do. We're trying to compare things or riff on an idea. But the idea that the truth is generated by the individual versus unobservable truth. Well, why can't they both coexist? Right? So maybe you write the story that suggests that if we ask everybody about stuff, ask all those individual realities about something, then we find the emergent truth. But then when we look for the singular truth, we find all those individuals.
I feel like that creates the conflict in itself too, because then that one person can abuse all of those.
Not necessarily the one person, right? But that the nameless, the forever,
yes,
the nothing. Okay. That was the never-ending story. That was the nothing, right? So something like that, right? So it's like actually they support each other. They all exist. It just depends on how you look. So maybe write the Book of Lenses.
You know what you're saying, yeah.
Because the story that has been written is the tension.
Right.
And then the winner.
Right.
Right? The story where the
story's not a story without tension.
Well, it
has to be tension in some way.
No, it doesn't. There doesn't have to be tension. This is what I'm telling you.
Okay, so if there's no tension or perceived tension.
So this is what I'm saying.
Okay. Perceived tension.
Meta, baby. Over top. So you perceive the tension,
right,
but it doesn't exist outside of you.
Right.
So sure, there's tension.
Right.
There's perceived tension.
There has to be perceived.
But what I'm trying to show you, no. Why are you doing that? What are you doing? Because I can show you a whole new world.
Right.
But if you continue to perceive the tension, there's no new world. Right? Start to play with the things. So you can play with the tropes. Right. So you can pick and choose from these archetypes.
Right.
Because the archetype, people, I would say that many want to write so that people read.
Yes.
Why don't you write to write? Why don't you write the story that nobody's written?
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's me.
Yeah.
That's me in the way that I see it. So I would actually say, like I say, maybe the Book of Lenses, where it's like there is this world where these people believe that they're correct and they're my reality and whatever. You can write that, and then it's like, well, no, there's this thing that's over here. It's kind of doing nothing, right? It's there.
Yeah.
Everybody can see it, but nobody wants to agree that it's there. But you all perceive it, right? So and it's like, well, we're capable of perceiving whatever we want, right? But that's also over there.
Yes.
Right? They're all there.
Right.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Right. So to maybe write a story that doesn't necessarily swear it, but accepts it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay.
So it doesn't swear it. It doesn't say you don't remove the ability of the individual to have their truth,
right,
and you don't remove the ability for an observable, consistent thing, no matter what looks at it or what observes it. They both happen, but you somehow square it so that both continue to exist because they already do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it's almost waking up the viewer to understand that
or the consumer, the information consumer, maybe not the viewer.
Okay.
Right. And now here's the deal. It's almost like it's the story that tells you what's going on in an obtuse way. So it's not maybe talking about the reality of today. It's talking about the reality of forever.
Right.
Right.
It's going to be like one of those ahead of its time stories.
Of no time.
Of no time.
Of no time. Right? That could apply anywhere, right? Like a philosophical exercise, but it's almost like the ending. There's no heroism in the ending.
Right.
It's just mundane.
Well, it's almost one of those things where you close the book or the media source and you're sitting there going,
huh?
Yeah. Huh. You just
yeah,
that hit me. Okay.
I had an experience.
Yes.
One of the things that I heard this week in speaking with somebody is that there's actually apparently a scientific paper that speaks about world-class swimmers, like world champion swimmers, and really the thing that makes the difference is absolutely mundane, everyday stuff.
Like what?
So excellence is waking up at a specific time, doing a specific routine. Excellence is achieved through absolutely mundane things.
Right.
And there's nothing cool.
Right.
There's nothing fun. And there's literally nothing fun about being excellent. It's just a repetition of doing specific things.
Right.
They're completely mundane day to day. And it doesn't feel good.
Oh.
It doesn't feel good at all.
Yeah.
Being good at something doesn't feel good. You are high caliber, high skill, high ability. But the act of doing
You
it,
had to get there.
no. You wake up, you eat some food, you exercise, you write you research something, you just
You constantly.
little step by little step by little step by little step.
You go to sleep, wake up, do it again.
Yeah, so the book of what's observed, not the book of fancy.
Well, I just something relatable because we are talking about stories, but I remember Hugh Jackman
Okay.
in an interview saying that as well. To have the physique of Wolverine, he had to eat a certain way and work out a certain way rigorously.
Yeah, I've warned you about this stuff though, right?
What's that?
The reading celebrity stories about body transformation and body maintenance.
Oh, he just mentioned
Yeah,
that.
he mentioned
He just mentioned it sucked.
Yes, it does suck.
Yeah, he just mentioned it sucked. He goes, yeah, I have this, but it sucks.
Yeah, like to have and present this visual aesthetic
Yes.
of a physical being, it like other people like it.
Yes.
But for it to occur, it sucks.
It's unpleasant.
Yeah. Now, again, just very generally, my warning is because the things that you hear about visual specimens, especially in entertainment spheres, not the complete story, and that's all I really absolutely have to say. It's just not the complete story. Well, it's not complete. Lots of details, right? It's a story. They're trying. If there's a story in a magazine, they're trying to sell you to the advertisers. They gotta hook you. Yeah. It's like, oh, Hugh Jackman said something, right? Like, or some other actor said something about exercise. Oh, I can exercise like that person. Wait, I just bought a sofa. How did that even happen?
Right.
I don't know. So that's why I bring that up. So maybe to wrap this up for myself, you can write the classic story where you have one worldview versus the other worldview, and you name one as good and one as bad, and they can compete and whatever. And
we have a victor or a loser
of some sort. I like the idea of writing the story that says, no, you're all there. You're all actually existing in harmony, despite the fact that you punch each other in the face sometimes. Because there's another level. Right? That's me.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to add to that?
I'm just thinking, when you're saying that, having this story...
I like the fact that you didn't do what you normally do.
I'm trying.
No, but yeah. Or whatever it is you say.
Nothing, and then I start talking.
No, nothing, but... Okay.
So just what you're saying, where we punch each other in the face sometimes, where we still... but wouldn't that have to create total awareness? Wouldn't they all have to be aware of it?
Well, it's what I would like for the world.
Okay.
But it doesn't mean I'm right. So yeah, maybe I'm looking for something. Maybe I am goal-driven, and maybe I'm the evil positivist. Like, I don't know. How would I know? I'd be the worst person to detect it.
Fair enough.
Right. But I'm looking for the thing that hasn't been done.
Right.
Right. That's all.
Well, and you're going to possibly create new types of viewers and new people consuming different types of consumption with a different type of story.
I don't like the word new.
Okay.
It's the same people.
Different?
Sure. Like they're just, the people who are going to consume it may look in a different angle or in a different thing, but they may just classify, another storybook. Right? Yeah, sure, if you say so.
Okay.
The other deal is that I don't tend to, and this is odd to say on a video that's going to be posted on a social media site, I don't produce for others, I produce for me.
Okay.
I need to get it out of me, and somebody's going to like it. And even if they don't, then, well, that's okay too, because it's not for them, it's for me. And it's like, but I should be respectful of other people. So there's this interesting thing that goes back and forth. And I'm like, yeah, well, at the end of the day, I'll just do it for me. I like you're part of it too, so that's awesome.
Right.
Because you're cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, right? But the producing to an audience or to a perceived audience, I think is pandering.
I see what you're saying.
And
purposely.
Here's the other thing. I recognize that as an individual, any sniff of coercion pisses me off. Oh, you're trying to tell me a story I like, so I'll buy something. I hate you. Right? I don't actually hate you. I just don't like this feeling. So to me, I would rather share thoughts, ideas, concepts without an audience in mind. I'd rather share the thought, the concept, the idea, and anybody who wants it can find it. Right?
It's available.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't want to aim at you.
right.
I want to share.
Right.
Right.